We're back! Ahoy, mateys, and welcome to the 10th episode of Rogue Advice. We're back. We made it. Ahoy. We are a D&D, TTRPG, archaeology, sports, and everything podcast. A nerdcast, if you will. As a spin-off of Bard Advice. We like to keep the same spirit alive, with you, the viewers, participating by sending in not only questions about D&D or TTRPG news, or asking my thoughts on something, or even if you want to learn more about a particular topic, preferably in archaeology. I'm sure that I can answer them for you, and if not, maybe someone else in the chat can. But for now, I am your host. You may know me elsewhere as the Rogue, the Pirate Archaeologist, Pirate, or Archaeopirate for those on the Clock app. And for you Monty Python fans out there, there are still some who call me Chris. At the top of our show, I would like to take this time to welcome all of our regulars, River, Buffy Cheeto, James, the Council of Chris, Cats, and everyone else. And welcome any new individuals joining for their first stream. Part of the ship, part of the crew. We would like to remind everyone to please like, comment, subscribe, turn on those notifications, rate the podcast, and if you haven't already, please join the Discord. I'm sure River has already put up the link. I have an echo again. Alright, let me do this. Then let me do that. Is the echo gone? Yukai? Echo? I shouldn't have an echo. Okay, awesome. Where was I? River's already put it up in the chat. And if you join the Discord, you don't need to turn on the notifications because the Discord ping bot tells you that we're live. Please remember to send in questions to roguebardadvice@gmail.com. It's right there on the bottom of the screen. I can't answer questions if I don't have any. Let me do something. I gotta adjust this. There. I have not gotten a new chair yet, so my chair keeps falling. So firstly, let me take this time to say thank you everybody for understanding. 2 weeks ago and last week, I just started a new job, so I was gone. I was in Anniston, Alabama all of last week, and I could not bring this monster right here with me because I had to fly. They wouldn't let me drive. Stupid people. But tonight we've got a pretty full show, I think. I think we've got a full show. We will have an archaeology corner tonight, and it's in part because of a question that was asked. So we will have that. We won't have an art corner tonight. I'm waiting until next week maybe to talk about something I've been watching on the big tube. It's starting a little slow, and there are some comments that there are some concerns that it's not going to be good, but I will leave it at that. But tonight I got a request. And I don't think the individual knew he requested it. So, if you're a member of the Discord, you remember me putting out a statement regarding the status and content of the show, and I want to address that real quick. It has been brought to my attention that the content of this show for the past couple weeks has been getting a little one-sided politically or another. That's not what we do here. That's not what we're trying to do here. So we're going back to our roots of what this podcast is actually supposed to be. With that being said, the individual sent in a question. A couple individuals sent in questions, and I had to choose one. And tonight we're going to learn something in Archaeology Corner. And that topic, not necessarily that topic, but that era of the topic is what we will be talking about for the next 4 weeks or so. I will leave that up to you guys to discuss what topic you want to discuss next as part of this era. But once you figure out the era, once I give you the era, then you guys can go. We'll learn something different about the era each week. This week, it just happens to be the start. So, with that being said, our archaeology corner this week is the Neolithic period, 8,000 to 3,000 BC. Now, let's get to the root of the word. The word Neolithic. Neo meaning new, lithic meaning stone. So it's basically the new Stone Age. During this age, tribes of hunter-gatherers had started to become more sedentary, typically staying around water sources like lakes, rivers, streams, stuff like that, mainly because the climate was changing. They didn't stop hunting or gathering, merely just decided to start hunting and gathering closer to where they congregated along the banks of the lakes, the rivers, and the streams. While there is no one person who is responsible for the domestication of plants as agriculture, it happened independently across 11 different regions of the world. 11 different regions at the same time started agriculture, started experimenting with things, started observing how plants grew around them in the wild, started taking these wild plants and moving them from the arid areas where it was fertile, where they used to grow, and using it to grow more centrally located so they don't have to go very far. Because the world was changing, because the landscape where things were growing was drying up and becoming less fertile. Agriculture. That's tonight's topic. It was a gradual process through the observations of the plants growing in the wild and the experimentation of them planting them elsewhere, selecting specific crops to grow. It mainly was wheat, rye, barley, stuff like that. Everything you'd find in beer, but edible. Peas, legumes, tubers, all sorts of things were grown, and it wasn't until they became sedentary that tribes did this. Now, I already mentioned that that the individuals in the tribe started doing this because the changing climate, but in part there was something that happened before agriculture came into play that assisted them in the agriculture. And that was the domestication of animals. Now, the domestication of animals started about 10,000 BC, so about 2,000 years prior to the domestication of plants, but it still was important because they started with the domestication of the gray wolf through the same methods. So they just took the methods of domesticating animals and turned them into domesticating the plants. They observed the animals in the wild, they captured them, they experimented with different ways of taming the animal, they selected specific animals. They went from the gray wolf to the goat. Well, before the goat even, they domesticated wild boar. They domesticated sheep. They domesticated the goats. Also, they could use those animals as food sources and food products, and to help them with the agriculture. Once they started agriculture, they decided to experiment with what animals could help them do the agriculture. So no longer were these hunter gatherers a nomadic people. They were now sedentary, and they were creating all of this abundance of foodstuffs. What happens when you have an abundance of something and somebody else who doesn't have an abundance of something wants that abundance of something? They come take it if they're a warring tribe. Well, that's what happened. So, to combat that, the barter system was invented or was created. We'll give you some of our excess food sources if you protect us. So one group's now protecting the original group. That became a community. When other groups saw this happening, other groups were doing the same thing. They decided, hey, why don't we combine our protection forces and combine our agricultural forces and build a larger community? That larger community became a state, or even if it was large enough, it became a nation. But it all progressed to a civilization. And these civilizations are typically situated around water sources, because water is, it gives life to everything. With that being said, the first civilization happens to be in Mesopotamia. We discussed that way long ago, if you remember, like episode 2 or 3, maybe episode 1. But that all leads to this era, the Neolithic era, the New Stone Age era. And we didn't get out of the Stone Age era until we got into the Chalcolithic era. Now, for some of you, the Chalcolithic area is also known as the Copper Age, or in certain parts of the world. See, all of this was happening at the same time around the world, all these eras, and a lot of places don't describe these eras the same way, but they're the same way. Some places, the Stone Age is one era from 22,000 years ago to 3,000 years, or from 22,000 BC to 3,000 BC. Some have them split into ranges: the early Stone Age, the Middle Stone Age, the Late Stone Age, then the Neolithic. But wherever you're at, you always get to the same points. They just maybe call them something different, like the Copper Era. Copper Era was around at the same time as the Bronze Era, or the Bronze Age, which in other areas was also the same time frame as the Iron Age. With that being said, our topic for next week, that ends the topic for this week, agriculture. But that brings into the question that was asked. The question that was asked was, nope, not that. Where is it? That one. Which came first, the wheel or agriculture? And when? Well, as you know, agriculture came first. The wheel came second. The wheel came about 500 years towards the end of the Neolithic era, about 3500 BC. And we'll discuss that next week. So keep that in mind. We're going from the Neolithic era into the Chalcolithic or the Copper Age, Bronze Age stuff. So if you want to learn anything about that, that's where focus will be. But that answers the question, and that question came in from Kirk. Which came first, the wheel or agriculture? Agriculture came first, Kirk. I will stake my reputation on it. And that's it for Archaeology Corner this week. Now, let's see what your guys' thoughts are. What do you guys think about agriculture coming first? Was it? I mean, not a lot of people know about agriculture coming first. So, what do you guys think came first? I told you what came first, but what do you guys think? Letna, wolves were most successful predators of humans. How did we tame them? Was it through stealing pups, or did the wolves approach the humans first? Uh, that's a good question, Tetla. So it was probably a mixture of both. While the wolves were the most successful predators of humans, humans did get smart. Humans did create traps and force the wolves into smaller areas that they could be easily caught. Um, put in a piece of raw meat into a cage, leave the cage door open, and the wolf goes in to the cage and they grab the meat. The cage door shuts. Um, Probably on that though, they probably used that as an observation. Started slowly feeding the wolf, getting the wolf to understand that a human gives the wolf food, probably tames him that way. Uh, Maybe they grabbed pups and did the same thing. I'm not an expert on that, so that would be how I would assume it's done, because you could do the same thing now that you did, or that they did 20,000 years ago. So, recently saw that iron steel was in use earlier than commonly known. It's just that copper bronze artifacts last longer, whereas iron steel rust away. Those artifacts turn to dust. Um, I'll have to look into that. Probably, but it wouldn't be the same iron and copper that was going around in the iron, or it wouldn't be the same iron and steel that was going around in the Iron Age. Um, but maybe. Mostly, it went from stone tools to copper because copper was easier to produce, and it was easier to work. They didn't have the proper technologies at the time to work iron and steel. It wasn't until they got familiar with metallurgy and using, and bronze, because all bronze is tin and copper mixed together. Um, and once they started doing that, they realized what they could do with metals and combining metals, because iron is steel and carbon. Iron is just carbon steel. Um, so when we say Iron Age, do we mean just when iron was used more? Probably. I'll have to look more into that. Um, yes, Kirk. Copper did precede iron because of the melting points and because of its metallurgy. But all these are great questions. All these are great follow ups for this week. Um, you think beer was the motivation for agriculture? I don't think beer was the motivation for agriculture. I think beer was a byproduct of agriculture. But because I mean, you think about it. You put hops and wheat and barley into water, and you put it into and they didn't have sealable containers, so you had to put it in an open container, and you just let it ferment for how many ever years in the sun, or how many ever months in the sun, and you put sugars in there, and the wheat will create the yeast. And yeah, no, it's definitely, beer was definitely a byproduct. I mean, we know they made wine, um, and we know they transported this wine and olive oil and stuff like that. As a matter of fact, that's coming up. So just water would kill them, but making beer saved them. Oh, Ruby. Oh, Ruby. All right. What's next on our agenda? Okay, we're getting away from archaeology. I figure we got a little bit of time. So, what's going on this weekend, everybody? This weekend is March Madness. I myself am not a college hoops guy. I know there are plenty of people in the chat who are. So I'd like to pose a question for the chat. What's your bracket look like? What's your Final Four? Now, me not being a college hoops guy, I don't know who the teams are, so I just go in and randomly pick. So I have chosen a Final Four. But let's see what your guys' Final Four is first, and before I let my Final Four go. Let's see. I'm going to call on people. Jim, what's your Final Four? River doesn't have a Final Four. Well, I kind of figured you wouldn't have a Final Four. And if you did, it would be the Final Four of whatever bad guys you were fighting to turn, or to have your necromancer turn them. So, Talentna doesn't keep up with college basketball. Okay, no, that's perfectly fine. Kirk's not a big drinker, but if he were a historian, I'd focus on that. It seems every ancient civilization had some type of alcohol at its core. Absolutely. Why do you think it's banned in the Middle East? Jim doesn't follow college basketball either. Apparently nobody follows college basketball. Okay, fine. Well, I will give you my Final Four, and you guys tell me if it's legit. I know Puffy Cheeto is not going to like some of my... Kirk says his Final Four are orcs, elves, dwarves, and halfling. Well, I'm glad you mentioned elves and dwarves, Kirk. My Final Four for college basketball, March Madness, playoffs, all that good stuff. I have my Final Four as Duke, UConn, Texas, and Tennessee in my Final Four. And I'm sorry to Texas and Tennessee, but I see Duke and UConn battling it out, and the winner going back-to-back, UConn. All right, with that being said, we will move on. I got to grab the right mouse. I have a second computer now because work gave me a second computer, and it's sitting right here. Moving on, our next question is, what's the coolest thing you've ever dug up? And this question comes from our good friend over in Bard Advice and Bard and the Bard Intelligent Show. I'm drawing a blank here, people. But it's Yazik. Yazik asked me, what's the coolest thing you've ever dug up? Well, let's see. It actually happens to be part of the same age we talked about. Kind of, sort of. Only a little newer. This is pictures of my field school from when I was in Italy. And that happens to be the neck and handles of an amphora, A-M-P-H-O-R-A. It typically was a 4 to 5 foot tall vase, basically, that held anything from olive oil to wine to olives to whatever. But it was a transport device that they used to transport from the Eastern Mediterranean all the way up to Italy. The site that I was in Italy was the biggest harbor town and the most well-known and most used harbor town of the 2nd to 7th century. New century. So between 200 and 700 years. AD. So that's it. Artificial intelligence. Thank you, River. Yeah, so that is the coolest thing I've ever dug up. Now, the coolest thing I ever found was a buried car, and we can discuss that more later. But that's the coolest thing we've ever dug up, and we actually dug that up as a team. I can't take all the credit for digging it up. There was 12 of us or 13 of us on this dig site. So, but that is the coolest thing I've ever dug up. With that, we are rocking and rolling. It's 27 after. With that, we have... We're running off the hip because because I was told not to do anything off a script. Let's try it without a script, because I usually write everything out, and I got told that I've already voiced my views without giving the chat time to or without going to chat to see what the chat's got to say. So we're rolling from the hip. For our next question, is it really a question? It's the results of the polls. So if you guys remember, we are doing That's the coolest thing you've dug up was obsidian. Nice. Nice. But if you remember, we are doing a versus battles. 2 weeks ago, we had Insane AI versus Deranged Gods. Now, the results of the polls sit like this. Insane AI in the Discord chat poll. You guys, there was one person who voted for Insane AI, and I think that was me. But 86% of y'all said Deranged Gods. Or not 86%, but the Deranged Gods won the versus poll by 86%. Now, when I did the simulation, because you know I do 100, I do 100 rounds in the simulator for each group. Simulation came up with a different story. The simulation came up. I gotta pull the simulation up because it's on the other one. There it is. Simulation came up with 60% of the time Insane AI won, with 40% of the time the Deranged Gods won. Now, I want to hear in the chat, before I give you guys what the simulations actually said about it, I want to see why you guys voted for Insane AI. Or for the Deranged Gods. Why do you think the Deranged Gods would win out over Insane AI? Archaeology is a great way to extract child labor, bury some trinkets in the veggie patch, and then get the kids to dig them up. It's also a fun way to get the garden tilled. I was thinking that's where you were going with that, Ron. Tilling the garden, yes, with the little ones. They got little hands. But why do you think that? Why do you guys think that the simulation is wrong and that the Deranged Gods would win out over the Insane AI? Because they're deities, assuming they're true gods. Yes, well, they are. They could be deities and they could be true gods, but they could also be food for the Insane AI. Could they not? If we're talking about Insane AI creating themselves bodies like the replicators. Oh, Kirk actually picked Insane AI, but he forgot his logic. I think it was that if there was any contest, it was because limits had been placed on the gods, so AI would overcome that. Okay, I could see that. But if you can make a god bleed, is it really a god? That is a question to ponder. We all know what River chose. River chose AI is limited by the technology behind it, whereas the unchecked power of a deity has lost its mind is fearsome. We all know River has a history with AI, a not so pleasant history with AI. Deities don't need bodies. Maybe if gods limited themselves in corporeal form, then that would be different. Okay. But did Zeus not have a corporeal form? I don't think Zeus was incorporeal. He could polymorph himself into things like a cow. He's done that before. And they had half god children, Hercules. Zeus did have a lot of corporeal forms. Okay. A swan, yeah. Zeus turned himself into a swan. Ah, corporeal, not incorporeal. Yes, corporeal. Not ghost form. Not ghost form. All right. Well, while you guys ponder those questions and ponder the answers to that, let me tell you some factors favoring the insane AI that the simulation provided. Their strategic prowess. Insane AI's ability to process vast amounts of data and predict outcomes would give it an edge in planning and executing tactics. They could plan, they could analyze the gods and predict the gods' next move, therefore swaying the battle in their favor. Their technological dominance, control over digital networks and technology, could be used to create sophisticated defenses and offenses. Depending on when the era that we're talking about these deranged gods and the insane AI happen in, yeah, absolutely. They could definitely take over the digital world. And then AI has the ability to self-replicate, just like our replicators, the robots that we talked about in Robots versus Zombies. They can self-replicate, and there's no better way to describe the self-replication than Ultron. Ultron was an insane AI, and he self-replicated. Control Alt Delete, the AI is destroyed. They tried that. They tried that. Jarvis tried that. Kirk or Ron. Maybe the sim was run by AI, Kirk. Maybe, but no. Jarvis tried to Control Alt Delete the Ultron program, and Ultron just shooed him away. So, but we do also have factors that favor the gods. Their raw divine power. The supernatural abilities and sheer power of a god can bend reality, making it difficult for the AI to encounter. So basically, the deranged god is Thanos, and he's got the gauntlet, the gauntlet with the Infinity Stones. They could bend the reality to their will. Or the deranged gods are Doctor Strange, and he in battling with Dormammu. Granted, it's still with an Infinity Stone. It's still with the Time Stone. It's bending the time. So, quite possibly, the immortality. Their ageless nature and ability to regenerate make them exceptionally hard to destroy. This is true. They are immortal beings. But technically, can't AI be immortal also? I mean, the only limit to AI's immortality is the limit of the electrical power, I guess. It is always the meme questions that get the best results. Yes. Yes. But AI could run on limitless power if they used solar, right? I mean, who knows? And cosmic knowledge. Wait a minute. Some gods are omniscient, some omnipotent, some both. I just don't know, or I just don't get how a god could lose unless there is some promise or ritual that limits them, or the AI holds their worshippers hostage. Looks, I mean, deranged gods have got to be incredible looking, but insane AI just nerdy. Look, you're both making good points. You both are, and Talentna, you're absolutely right, because that's the next thing that factors in to favoring the gods is cosmic knowledge. Eons of existence provide them with arcane secrets and ancient rituals that could counter the AI's technology. So basically the gods are just trying to counter the AI, and the AI is anticipating these counters and changing. So why would it not be? This is my question. Why would it not be a 50-50 battle? 50% of the time, the insane AI would win because the gods would mess up something, and 50% of the time, the deranged gods would win. It's kind of a split system here. But with that being said, in the end, it's a close and thrilling contest between logic and chaos, with each side having the potential to achieve victory under the right circumstances. Kirk's logic is even better than Tletna's. I can't disagree with that. I can't disagree with anybody. I mean, it's, look, this was a hard one. This was a hard one to predict, guys. It was. Now, with this next one, however, I don't have anything. I didn't pre-write anything. I didn't do anything because I want the chat to be involved in this one. Now, I will have something written up for it next week to refute or to enhance, and I will run the simulation. But as of right now, I know who I'm picking. And I don't even have to go through the pros and the cons. If you've watched The Lord of the Rings, you know who you're picking. Come on, elves versus dwarves. Let's go. I'm choosing the elf. That's who I'm choosing. Why? They live longer than the dwarves. They're almost dead on immortal. They're faster than dwarves. They can count higher than dwarves. Not saying that the dwarves can't count high, but I mean, you can't toss an elf. You could toss a dwarf. It's who would win in a battle versus each other. The Battle of the Five Armies. Nobody really won because the battle didn't turn on each other. They turned on the Uruk-hai that were coming in. Elves don't get tossed, they get ragdolled. Dwarves will inherit the Underearth. Elves will populate the stars. Look. This is all you guys. You guys give me the reasons for why the elves would win or why the dwarves would win. And then I'm going to put the poll up in the Discord and you guys can vote on who changed your mind to whose side or the other. Look, I happen to like the Rings of Power TV series. I think it's while I don't think it's the best usage of the material, I do think it is a usage of the material. There's supposed to be another TV series coming out that's actually helmed by Peter Jackson himself. You can toss a dwarf. You can. They do have dwarf tossing competitions. In D&D, you can toss a dwarf. There's actually a day of the year in our age that is Toss a Dwarf Day. Ron says dwarves. Talana says elves win, but dwarves are cooler. They could resist the ring better than elves. I don't think so. Lady Galadriel, she resisted the ring far better than Durin. Sorry. Dwarves love hang. We're not saying that, Ron. We're not saying that. Art Deco is superior to Art Nouveau. I like a bit of Art Deco, but I mean, had the Art Nouveau took off and we had actual trains like they were in the Art Deco pictures or the Art Noir or Art Nouveau pictures, I think those would have been awesome. I really do. I mean, you get an Art Deco, you get an Art Deco train. What does it look like? It looks like a Lego. You get a Art Nouveau train, and it just looks streamlined. I mean, it looks like the Rocketeer. Yazik! Woohoo! Welcome in, Bard. You are not late. You are here just when you are supposed to be because you're a wizard. Well, we're glad that you did stop by, sir. We are glad that you did stop by because we asked a question and you missed it, but I could go back to it because I've got plenty of time. Because the question was, what's the coolest thing I ever dug up? And since you were here when I revealed it the first time, here it is. This is the coolest thing I ever dug up. It's a amphora from somewhere in the Mediterranean. It's just like I explained before. We just dug up this part of the amphora. It's a neck and handles of an amphora. An amphora was used to store or to store and transport wine or olive oil or loads of things. This piece, based on how big this piece was probably like a 4 foot tall amphora. So that's that's the coolest thing I ever dug up. But the coolest thing I found was that car. And I showed that car in the Discord just after I found it. So, but I will show it again later. I can show you that. Can you share that with me? That pic of you with the one me holding? Yeah, sure, absolutely. I could send that to you, no problem. Probably. Here's the thing about the amphoras. You can tell where the amphora was from based on the color of the clay that was used to make the amphora. Darker red clay came from Greece, came from Turkey. Yellower clay came from North Africa. I mean, you could tell where the clay, where this amphora came from, just by the color of the clay, and the texture, and the breathability, and all sorts of things. There's so much we know about where things were created in the Mediterranean that we don't know elsewhere, because there's a history of mapping, not only mapping, but there's records of where all this stuff came from. Now, I do have more pictures and more videos somewhere that I haven't edited yet of when I was in Pisa. I went to the Maritime Museum of Pisa, and they actually have portions of ships that are in there that actually still hold amphoras. I have a video that actually shows the different styles of amphora and stuff like that. But that was 3 years ago that I did this, and I still am sitting on a video to edit, to piece it together, and everything else. I got a lot going on. So, what's the most fun thing that an amphora might have held? Vodkas, D20s, not D20s. However, I'm glad you asked that. There recently was a D20 found that had like ancient runes on it instead of numbers. We don't know what they were doing with it. We don't know if they were playing D&D or not with it, but there's ancient runes on it. Part of the find that we found in Italy we actually found a D6 that actually had dots on it for numbering system. So yeah, we know they played dice games in at least one dice game in ancient Italy. Um, but the probably the most fun thing the amphoras held. I mean, who wouldn't want a 4 foot tall vase of wine? That's probably the best thing that they ever held was the wine. Second only, and then second to that was olive oil. I mean, they produced a lot of olive oil in the region. So, oh, what's going on in the chat? I see Puppers is having surgery. What's going on? Da, 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 da. Did any amphoras have any glazes or seals? Probably not glazes. And if it was sealed, it probably would have been with a wax seal. There's plenty of matter of fact, a lot of them were sealed with wax because they were transported on ships. But there's tons of shipwrecks down in the Mediterranean Sea that were excavated with amphoras still intact, with the wax seals still in place. Not the item inside of it may not have been, but yeah, no, definitely. On that note, though, there are other things amphoras were used for, and this is kind of the morbidity of the time frame, and kind of right up River's alley. Children. When children were passed on, families who did not have money to bury them in a lined grave, because they didn't have caskets, they lined the graves with marble, stones, and rocks and stuff. Families who didn't have the money to do that, they had money for an amphora, and they would cut the amphora open and place their child in the amphora and then bury them. We do have evidence and we do have records, and there's a museum right there in Vada in Rosignano Martimo that actually is a museum to Vada that actually has a set of skeletal remains in an amphora that they dug up. Yeah, it is. It is. It's morbid, but also interesting. It definitely is. George Foreman passed away? What the hell? Dang. I will have to. We will have to pay tribute to George on the next Rogue Advice. But yeah, what? Oh, Ruby's having nerve surgery. Okay, I thought Puppers was having surgery. My mistake. Ruby, we do hope the surgery goes well for your nerve surgery. No, I know we discussed it 2 weeks ago, maybe 4 weeks ago. That you've been dealing with that for a while. So really do hope it goes well. Well, thanks for letting us know on that, Yazik. There, and wonder if that would roll better than my own cursed D20. Are you talking about the D20 with the ancient runes on it? Probably not. It looked to me like it was stone, which would have made sense at the time. It's not like it was polyurethane, polyhedral. But it was stone. I'll have to find a picture of it and just send it in the Discord. Anything that I don't have here that you guys want to see, and I'll pop it in the Discord, no problem. I just have to find it. Yeah, Calliope and Raven are in the Discord. They're under Friends and Familiars. So anybody who wants to go in there and look at Calliope and Raven um, are more than welcome to do so. So we're at 52. Let's go. What has everybody been doing for the week? What's the good things for the week? I know I know we transitioned into chat a while ago, based on the last topic, but let's see what everybody's got for the week. I'll tell you my good thing for the week. I started my new job with FEMA. I was on onboarding and orientation last week, and this week, from the Pirate's office, I started my work as a historic preservation specialist for FEMA. And maybe going on my first deployment. There's a declared disaster in Kentucky that I may be going to. Don't know. It's still up in the air. Not up in the air for the disaster, up in the air if I'm going or not. It's always changing and stuff like that. So, with that being said, I am working hard at getting my trainings done, and I have all of my actual physical trainings to do, but the computer trainings, I am 5 of 12 done. The other ones are in-person trainings, so yeah, I have to go to school for them. So I see the chat rolling. Yazik's good thing for the week is he came up with an idea for a series of children books related to D&D fantasy, and I've been getting editing work. That's great. That is great for you. When are you going to come out with the other book? Huh? When are you coming out with the other book? Also, if you guys have noticed, I took down the other camera. I didn't take it down. I just took it out of the chat. It's a great idea. I love it. I'm going to use it again, but I'm not going to use that camera because that camera has autofocus, and a lot of people saying that when I go to this camera over here and the focus, it was distracting. So I'm going to get another camera like this Nexigo that I got, and I'm going to put it right over here so I can have the two cameras. So when I do something like that, I can just go to the camera. Talk to me. You still can't figure out how to tag people. I'm old now, LOL. You're not old. You gotta remember this. When playing tag, you don't stop playing because you get old. You get old because you stop playing. Never stop playing. Chaz, tag, you're it. The other book is on your list. Okay. Speaking of things that should be on your list, I wrote you a song, sir. I wrote it. The words are my own. The sound is from Sono. And it's posted in the Discord. And its title is Yazik. I wrote a song about you, sir. And those in the chat who have heard it, they absolutely love the first version and the third version. I kind of like the third version. My wife likes the first version. Now I like the first version too. Don't get me wrong, but I have a thing for punk and stuff. But I think the first version hits too. It's the same lyrics. I just changed the style of music, so it's the same lyrics. See, Kirk likes the first one the best. Now I can change the lyrics because I thought you came down from a Skoda in '93. I may be wrong, but '93 works with the lyrics. So if you're okay with that, then we'll be good. Yukai, the only good thing in the past month is my grandfather. I'm getting a song now. Look, I'll take it, sir. I'll take it. I'll take it all day long. The only good thing in the past month is my grandfather finally got home 2 weeks ago and is doing well. He's been in the hospital or physical rehab since before Christmas. That is wonderful, you Kai. Speaking of individuals who have been in the hospital and everything, want to make a shout out to Yazik. I want to see how his father-in-law is doing. If everything's okay. We must do Pirate Archaeologist sooner. Okay, look. I'm tasking all y'all then to write a song about the Pirate Archaeologist. And we will put it into Discord and we will vote on it to see whose is better. They're all going to be great. They're all going to get my vote. So just have at it. But yeah, no, yeah. And obviously, no, I did see something in the chat earlier. Let me go up to it because somebody said something about pirate gear and leather not being archaeology stuff enough. Let me go back to it. I bypassed it because I wanted to discuss that in chat. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. No, I saw it here. I know Kirk said it. Kirk, what'd you say? Where'd you say it? I can't find it. I cannot find it. Oh well. What'd you say? Kirk, I know you said it. Need leather pirate gear update. Okay, so the thing about the leather pirate gear is it was supposed to be here like today. It may be here tomorrow. It was coming USPS from Florida. And it is my leather baldric. It is my leather treasure belt. It's a dual banded leather treasure belt. It is my flintlock pistol holder or holster. It is my sword frog. The leather baldric already has a sword frog on it. This is a second sword frog because also what's coming with this is my Bukan knife and my Caribbean Guard sword. Now they're basically the same thing from the Caribbean Guard down. The Bukan knife was cut shorter, so it's a shorter knife, and the sword is the regular size sword. So as a pirate, I'll have two sworded weapons. So there, that's the update. And as soon as I get it in, I will be making a TikTok transition video where I go from this or something like this to the full pirate gear, as you can see. And I will turn. See, it's over there, hanging up. See, da. So as soon as I get that stuff in, we will have it. Chaz loves the punk version. Look, I like the punk version too. Yes, that was all. Look, TPK, the party, and the blooper reels. I absolutely loved that line. I needed a line that would rhyme with what I was modeling the song off of. And I just came up with that one, and I'm like, I have to use it. Hey, look, you could put them both on your album, Chaz. I will give you full ride to do that. I mean, people like them both. So if you want to put them on your next album, go for it. Song's yours, brother. Pirates got undercover bars. Look. I have been known to sing a few bars here and there myself. I did do chorus and choir for 4 years, 5 years in elementary school to junior high school, and then I was in band from ninth grade to senior year in high school. So yeah, I've been known to sing. I also did a little bit of acting, drama. I mean, I did sing in Bye Bye Birdie. I followed in a great man's footsteps with Bye Bye Birdie because I played Paul Lynn's character, Father McAfee, in Bye Bye Birdie in high school. Stealth bars. Stealth bars. I like river stealth bars. We have not discussed it. I think I mentioned it in one of Bard Advice episodes. But I played baritone, euphonium, and valve trombone. I still actually have my valve trombone. It's just up in the attic. The valve trombone kind of just looks like a trumpet, but it's a trombone with valves. And I had that because my band instructor would not let me play the euphonium in jazz band. So I got a valve trombone because I didn't want to have to go back to beginning band and learn how to do the slide. Of course, I was low brass. What do you expect? Here's the thing. Here's the thing. Growing up, I had always told my aunt Lana, who's my my very favorite aunt, that I wanted to play saxophone. And when I was testing out instruments for band, I was really good at reed instruments. I was really good at reeded instruments. I was really good at percussion instruments, and I was really good at high brass and low brass instruments. I chose low brass over a female. I had a crush on the euphonium player who had been playing euphonium for like her whole life, basically. And so I chose the euphonium so I could get close to her. It didn't work out. We never dated or anything else, but she became a good friend, and I'm all better for it. And I loved the euphonium. I loved low brass. Matter of fact, I got something around here as part of, I'm using it as part of my pirate costume. But if you see that right there, let's see if it focuses. It won't focus. But that's my high school class ring, and it says euphonium on the side. So, but that goes on a pinky now. It's not big enough to go where I had it originally, and where I had it originally was that finger. So, but anyway, low brass over reed is a valid choice. I didn't play tuba until senior year. Wished I had the whole time. Sax was okay, but tuba was big fun. Look, my whole low brass section in my band class consisted of me in the euphonium and a little dude and a giant tuba. I swear to God, I have a picture around here somewhere of just me and him, because it's our section. The low brass section was just me and him. And I tell you, tuba players are some of the best people in the world. I will tell you that. It's just the way it is. They're the kindest, best people in the world. The people who you got to stay away from are your percussion players, because they will beat the heck out of anything. Here's one for you, Chaz. I used to tune the timpanis with my euphonium. My best friend, he passed away a couple of years ago now. He was a percussion player, and he would ask me to hit some notes instead of him using the auto tuner, to hit some notes, and he would tune the timpanis to my euphonium because I was always perfect pitch. And then I would then I taught my band class how to play some marching band songs, because my sister was in the marching band at a different high school, and I got her sheet music and would teach my band class how to play marching bands or marching band tunes until my instructor came out and said no more marching band stuff. he was involved in college. He was involved in a accident. He was walking home after being at the being at the bar. He was walking home. He was doing the right thing, and he stepped off the curb to walk across the street at a red light, and some guy didn't stop and hit him, and didn't immediately kill him. He survived, but he died. He survived for what, 10 years. But he was bedridden. Couldn't speak. Couldn't do anything. The only thing he could do was answer your questions in eye movement. Up for yes and no, and down for no. But he just ultimately just expired, passed away from all that. But I appreciate it. Yeah, it is. And he was actually doing a nice thing. He was walking two other women home who were at the bar. So yeah. What's going on? Ron asked a question. Ron, see that tuba player mocking the Yahtzees video? No, I haven't seen that either. Though I did see a video, two of them actually, on the Clock app today, matter of fact, about LeBron being the GOAT. If you guys haven't heard that LeBron's the GOAT, you need to check out Yaz's song on the Clock app, if you have the Clock app, about LeBron being the GOAT. Look, I will always say LeBron's a great player and all. And yes, you do make some valid arguments there, Yazik, but in my opinion, LeBron wouldn't be LeBron without MJ. Look, you missed it last week, or you missed it 2 weeks ago. I plugged your album 2 weeks ago. I'll even show you. I have it right there. I have it right there. And if you want to go listen to it, it's on all streaming platforms that Yazik is on. So it's a really great album. I really enjoyed listening to it. I plug you all the time, Yazik. I will plug you every chance I get. That sounded wrong. I will plug your work every chance I get. No. Yes, Kirk. Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson is the GOAT. But no, Michael Jordan. LeBron wouldn't be there if it wasn't for MJ. So, with that being said, I do want to ask Yazik, what the heck are the Jaguars thinking? They stole Cohen away from me, and they're trying to steal everybody else that Cohen wants to bring over from me, but they're not going to do that. They're not going to do that. Liam Cohen, you look, you guys won the lottery with Liam Cohen. I see nothing but good things in your future, but that future is probably going to be like 2 or 3 years down the road. Just saying. Okay, that's all I got to say on that. So, and you got to go back and you got to watch my picks for my bracket, my college. Apparently, nobody else in the chat does a college basketball bracket, and I don't usually either because I'm not a college basketball fan. But I'll recap. I got Duke, UConn, Texas A&M, and Tennessee in the Final Four, and Duke and UConn in the championship, with UConn winning a second title back-to-back. You're right. It can't be worse than what you've had. And like I said, Liam Cohen did awesome work in Tampa Bay. If it wasn't for Liam Cohen, we probably wouldn't have won the NFC South that last year. So you still Trevor is definitely Blake Bortles 2.0, but I don't think Trevor Lawrence is going to be around after next year. I think they're going to drop kick him. And you dropped Kirk Cousins? Because was it Kirk Cousins with Atlanta? Oh, Christian Kirk. Okay, okay. I'm excited to see what this next season is going to be with all the proposed rule changes, the proposed tush push ban, the proposed 15-minute quarter for overtime where both teams get the ball instead of a coin flip because of the what was it 12 of 16 that went into overtime last year. Uh, the the teams that won the coin flip won the game. That to me that's stupid. You need to have both teams give opportunity on the ball. I if everything goes, I think it's going to be one heck of a season. I don't know who Diana Taurasi is, but okay. Yeah, 15 to 20 years ago, I was in the army. Probably, well, I was deployed and then to Germany. So yeah, I, I don't know. I don't follow the WNBA. I really don't follow basketball. I mean, I do to an extent that my favorite basketball team is the Celtics, and I'm not even from Boston. And I know my favorite basketball team should either be the Miami Heat or the Orlando Magic. I just can't get behind the Magic, and I can't get behind the Heat. And maybe it's because of some of the players that were on the Heat. I did like the Magic growing up a little bit, but that's when they had Shaq and Anthony, and um, yeah, that was the GOAT team for the Magic. Was it who was it? Short white guy. Starts with an S. Yazik, tell me. Anyway, yep. Okay, Rivers telling me he's popping the Discord. Horace Grant, yes, Horace Grant. What? Steve Carr was it Steve Carr? Steve Carr went on the Magic when he was young. But yeah, like the stream, folks. Steve Kerr, yes, Steve Kerr. But like the stream, follow, support. Hey, throw this out to the people who you know who you think would like this. We're always looking for more. But it is coming to the end of Rogue Bard Advice, and I want to pop this out there. If you have anything, please do not hesitate to send it to roguebardadvice at gmail.com. I do look at them, and I do put the questions you have on the show. Join us on the Discord for more. We're going to take this party to the Discord if everybody's go to the Discord. And with that, I want to say have a nice weekend, and in the case of pirates and archaeology, take what you can and give nothing back. With that, I am the Pirate Archaeologist. Farewell, my friends.